Let's talk about comprehension, metacognition, and critical thinking. These are things you're going to need to know when it comes to your teacher certification in reading and for English, whether it's middle school or high school. And on most exams, the test makers want to make sure you understand how to push students towards that higher order thinking, especially when it comes to reading. Let's get started. So when you're taking your certification exam and in life, so remember, anything I tell you about your certification exam, I want you to try your best to apply it in life. You want to pay close attention to increasing students' critical thinking. So in the answer choices, if you see the word critical thinking, higher order thinking, rigor, those are all good words, especially when it comes to reading instruction. So critical thinking is attached to comprehension. When we are in the foundational stages of reading, so for example, the phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics, we're not really using our critical thinking skills like we would in comprehension, right? Predicting what's going to happen next, summarizing what we just read, applying outside knowledge to what we're reading in the passage. It's a little more high level when it comes to comprehension. You still have to dig deep when you are a beginning reader to understand sounds in words and to decode words using codes inside of the words. But it's very important that we understand the distinction between the two. When we think about phonics versus comprehension, we're thinking about code-based skills, so decoding the words, letter-sound correspondence, and meaning-based skills, which is digging a little deeper into the passage as a whole, as a paragraph, or even as the phrase, and understanding the meaning and the impact and all of that. Now, when it comes to comprehension, there's a word that I want you to attach that, and that is metacognition. It's thinking about your thinking. And we have to teach students how to do that in order for them to comprehend text. So we do that by modeling, right? We might read something aloud to the students, and we might come to a word that we don't know, and we might model how we would attack that word, right? So we might say, oh, I don't know what that word is. Let me think. Let me sound it out. Can I chunk it? Okay, I'm still unsure what it means. Let's read around it, a sentence above and a sentence below. Let's see. Oh, I get what it is. And when you do that, you show students how to use their brain. That's metacognition. The other thing I want you to attach comprehension to is higher order thinking and questioning, okay? When we want to increase comprehension, we want to do that through questioning techniques. So we might have guiding questions at the beginning of something we read. We might ask ourselves some questions. You might do a KWL chart. You might have Cornell notes. There are graphic organizers that have questions in them. And that's a way to guide students through their reading, and then they can answer those questions as they go. But as we become better readers, we sort of ask ourselves those questions, right? Think about it. You're reading a book and you're going, why is she doing that? Did I miss something? And you might have to go back and sort of reread, or you might think like, that makes sense because 2 chapters ago, I read that the dad did this or the mom did that, right? You're connecting all of these and you're answering your own questions. You might be thinking, I wonder what's going to happen next, or I wonder what will happen if she does that. That's all firing in your brain as you read. And it's super complex. And we sort of take it for granted because we've been reading for so long, right? And when we get to a more complex piece of text, like for example, you're reading your novel and it's all firing off and you're predicting and you're summarizing and you're asking questions and answering questions all while you read these words on a page. But then you might be given some pretty complex science text about cancer or DNA or rocket ships or whatever, and you might have to really slow down and go back to some of those more foundational skills, right? Looking at the words, sounding out some of those more complex words, and then even like trying to figure out what the word means. So we move in and out of, lower level skills and higher level skills depending on the complexity of the text. Now, students, as they're beginning to read, obviously they start with the foundational. If we're doing systematic explicit instruction, they start with that foundational and they move up towards that comprehension and that critical thinking. But as soon as you bump the rigor of the text, they might fall back again. They might have to sound out those words. And so it's important that we understand that when we're teaching reading. So remember, all of these skills are to build toward comprehension. Comprehension is our goal. It is the position of many people, myself included, is that we go to school to learn to read, because when we learn to read, we can do all the things in the school. We can do science, we can do social studies, we can do shop, we can do culinary. All of it requires critical thinking and reading comprehension. So that's really important. And students move through those stages. And when we are asked questions about comprehension, we want to attach critical thinking to it, metacognition, and also questioning. Those are three things I want you to think about when it comes to answering questions on the exam when it comes to comprehension. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and it will be my pleasure to help. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Let me show you where to get our products if you're interested in getting help on your teacher certification exams and leadership certification exams. We have study guides, online courses, audio courses, everything you can imagine to help you pass your test. If you're looking for additional help with your teacher certification or your leadership certification exam, head over to KathleenJasper.com. You'll see that we have tons of study guides here. We have the digital version. We also have the paperback version you can buy on our website. We have online courses with hours of videos and instructional elements. This also comes with the digital study guide. You get everything with our online courses. For several books and courses, we do have audio courses, which are very helpful. And of course, we have our free resources, which are our live webinars. You can watch the recordings here, download the free study guides, and get those free resources. So check out KathleenJasper.com for more information on your teacher and leadership certification exams.